All right, chapter 8.
I'm excited.
Ratios and proportions.
Good.
So you've done this since 5th grade. A ratio. A ratio is not, it's kind of like a rate, but a ratio,
1 to 5.
it compares two numbers that have the same label.
Like, for an example,
Like inches to inches, or miles to miles, or dollars to dollars. The ones where they try to trick you is sometimes they'll say write a ratio of 36 inches to 1 foot. Okay, these are not the same label. So what you got to do when you're doing a ratio is you got to make them so they're the same. Either make this to feet or this to inches. It doesn't matter which one you do.
it's easier.
This would be 3 feet, or this would be 12 inches. So there's 3 ways to do it. You can write it as a fraction. So if we do it in feet, it would be 3 to 1. If we do it in inches, it would be 36 to 12. But what does 36 to 12 reduce to? 3 to 1. Okay? And then the second way is with the word to.
Yes, you can.
And then the third way is with the colon. So you can write it any one of the 3 ways. Ratios, I guess this is the most common way, but right here now, when you write it as a fraction, 3 to 1 is just 3. But if you write it as a ratio, you need 2 numbers. Because if you wrote with the word 2, can you just put 3, 2, and then leave it blank?
No.
No, you need the 1 there. So that's why when you write it as a fraction, you got to, if it's a 1, you got to put it on the bottom. So a proportion, you guys know proportions. I'll just do an easy one. 1/2 equals 4/8. Is that true?
Yes.
Now you may have forgot how to check them. To check to see if proportions are equal, there's different ways. You could get a common denominator and compare to fractions. Or you could divide them out and compare to decimals. Or what you're going to have to do in the more difficult ones like this is the cross products. 4 times 2 has to equal 1 times 8 in order for them to be a proportion. 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 8 is 8. So the cross products have to be equal. The extremes and means. Here's a proportion. All I did was double it so that we know they're equal. The extremes, now if you were to number these, if you start here and go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, these 2 are the extremes, the first and the last. And these 2, the ones that are kind of inside, are called the means. So when you do the cross products, you figure out, do the extremes multiplied equal the means multiplied? Those don't really have any application. I mean, I don't know why you need to know that, but it's in there. These 2 are the extremes, these 2 are the means.
Okay.
So, simplifying a ratio, just like I just told you, they have to have the same unit before you can simplify them. So here we got kilograms and grams. Do you guys remember how many grams are in a kilogram? 1,000. Kilos, 1,000. So, it always works better to make the bigger unit into the smaller one. You can do both ways, but sometimes when you make the smaller one into a bigger one, it doesn't always work. I mean, the other way around. So, 16 kilograms if there's 1,000 grams in every kilogram,
15,
you just move this 3 spots.
1,000.
16,000 over 800.
That's good.
You don't need to label ratios because they'll have the same unit. Rates, you do have to label when we do those. But when you simplify this now, if they end in zeros, you can just cancel them off. And then simplify. 16 divided by 8 is 2, and then there's a 0. But remember, since it's a ratio, you can't just leave it like that. What would be on the bottom? 20 to 1. I don't know if your iPad calculators will simplify fractions, but do you guys remember how to do that on these?
No.
Use the ABC button. You can just go 160, ABC 8, and then hit the equal, and it reduces it for you, but it just gives you the 20. So you need to know you got to put the 1 there too. So here, I could change this to yards, 7 feet, but it doesn't make an even number
No.
because there's 3 feet in a yard. So this is an example where it's usually easier to make the bigger unit into the smaller one. How many feet are in a yard? 3. 3 feet in the yard. So we just got to take this times 3, and it'd be 63. So then you have to simplify it. So what number can you divide
1
both
to
these
9.
by? 7. So you get 1 to 9. So that's kind of the trickiest part of today's stuff is when they're different units, you got to make them the same unit and then simplify it. So solving proportions. You've done this since 5th or 6th grade. If there's one number missing, you guys remember how to solve proportion? Cross multiply and divide. 2 times 10 is 20. Divided by 12 is 1.6 repeating.
But you can't. Can you?
Okay? Now, in this case, this just has an X missing. So these are the simple ones. These are the ones where you did do a little bit of this in 8th grade, but not many. You notice there's more than just a T missing, there's also a T there. So, when you've got a problem like this is where you need to know that since it's a proportion, cross products are equal, right? So what that means is 8 times T has to equal
3 plus 3 times T plus 4.
right. 8 times T is 8T, has to equal these two multiplied. Now this is where a lot of people make an error. When you take a 3 times 2 things, what's that going to end up equaling? 3T what? When I take 3 times this, what do you end up getting?
3 times T plus 4, or 12.
Right. 3 times the T is 3T, and 3 times the 4 is plus 12. People forget to do that, because when you take one thing times this, you got to distribute the 3 too. You got to take the 3 times both of them. Now, another error that people have done in the past, and I've never been able to figure this out, other than they probably just didn't pay attention, is instead of 8 times T, for some reason, a lot of people put 8 plus T. But remember, it's cross products. You got to multiply crossways. So, once you have it down, it's a simple equation. You just got to solve it. Get the T's together. So subtract 3T. And then divide by 5. Now, sometimes you'll get oddball numbers. This one, you could leave 12/5 if you wanted to. You could divide it out, it would be 2.4. So, if you get an odd fraction, you can just leave it that way, or you can divide them. So, setting up your own proportions. Anytime you got a word problem that they give you 3 numbers in it, and they're looking for a 4th, proportions are the easiest thing to do, or easiest way to solve them. So here we've got scale of a model is 10 inches long and 5 inches tall. So what I would do is put 10 over 5, and then you just got to remember that 10 is long and 5 is tall. So then when you set your proportion up, you got to follow the same pattern. So here the actual is 60 inches tall. So would I put it on the top or the bottom?
Top. Bottom.
Bottom is the tall number, so I'd put that there, and then there's the missing number. What is the length? So as long as you follow the same pattern, you can write your proportion.
That's awkward.
And then here's it's a simple problem. 10 times 60 divided by 5 is 120. And since this was in inches, that'd be 120 inches. Right?
Okay.
So, you have two types of proportions. The easy ones, the ones you gotta write an equation. If it's just one letter missing, you just cross, multiply, and divide. 21 times 2 divided by 7 is 6. If there's more than just a letter in there, you have to write the equation. You have to go 6 times x, the cross product, has to equal this times this. So when there's two things here, you gotta take the 4 times both of them. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. And then you gotta solve. So move the 12x out of there. It's a plus, so you minus it. And then divide by negative 6, and you get 8. That's it.
Understand, Jerry?
Yeah.